Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I'm going to say good morning, first of all, to Gary Muirhead, who was here literally as the show started. Morning, Gary. Hope you're fit and well, my friend. How are things up in Bonnie, Scotland? Are you on the Volvo yet, or are you still on the Hitachi? Let us know. Our friend Twan over at Haribo Star Mix over on Instagram says, yes, I'm back. Sorry I didn't watch the last couple of times. Wasn't the same without you, but it's good to have you back. Very quickly, and this may require some explanation, given that we have somebody from the Netherlands here, and we also have somebody from Scotland here. I'm off to the cricket later with my two sons. Yes, my son Fred and my son Ollie. We are going to the cricket. Yeah, cricket. Gary, just in case you're wondering, yeah, bats and balls, men dressed in white. I realise it doesn't translate particularly well up in your part of the world, but yeah, off to the cricket. Peter McKenna, who is ever mobile, is over on Instagram saying good morning. Good morning, Peter. How are you doing? Why Instagram this morning? Do you just like to keep me guessing? I don't know. It may be one of those things. Phone's just buzzed. No idea what that was all about. Let's have a look. Some things, some things afoot on my phone. On my phone. Let's have a look. Um, okay, just a very quick update. So yes, and the update was about. I don't know if anybody else has been following the story. There is, as I've mentioned on the show previously, there is a whistleblower in our midst. I'm going to change the layout for this one slightly because I have that option to do that. Let me show you this very quickly. Share my screen, and it looks like that. Yeah, wrote this first thing this morning. Can open worms everywhere. The whistleblower that has been making life fairly uncomfortable for many in the UK asbestos industry has vanished. Not the first time, and I'm sure he'll be back, but he's vanished, taken all his posts with him. And what my article is basically the whistleblower may be gone, but his questions and his accusations remain. That was my point. Yes, he may have gone, but is anybody going to address what he said? Is anybody going to address his assertions, his allegations, his accusations? That's what we need to know. I'm going to revert to my other layout. There we are. I'm going to take that off the screen as well. Stop that. That's good stuff. Okay. Yes, that's the question of the day. Now, if you would like to read that full article, and I've got to be honest with you, I have put it behind a paid firewall. But if you're already a member over on Demolition Insider, you can read it free of charge. If you have a look in the chat now, you can see Demolition Insider. There is the link to it. You can go take a look at that at your leisure. Brick House 2983. Brick House. Isn't that a Commodore song from back in the days of disco? I think it probably is. Anyway, people, yes. So cricket this afternoon, whistleblower this morning. It never ends here. Without further ado, I'm going to roll the intro. I'm going to post the question today, and I'm going to get this show on the road, starting with a bit of this. I may photograph this comment and frame it for future purposes. Gary Muirhead, I said I was going to the cricket this afternoon, and being the canny Scot that he is, he's responded with cricket. Nope, don't get it. It's practice as a homosexual martial art in Scotland. I'm not even going to ask what happens with the bat. I'm going to leave that to your own imaginations. Apparently the chat wasn't working particularly well because a lot of people have arrived and I didn't see them coming. So there's Mark Whiting. Let's say a good morning to Mark with his button, that works like that. Who else do we have here? Peter McKenna is here as well. He's apparently Peter is on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube, but he only gets one press of the button, which looks like that. Jonathan Duras is here as well. Good morning to you. Jim Turner is here as well. Let's press Jim's button. And Peter says, I like opening cans of worms, as do I. And there's no putting them back, is there? No putting them back at all. I saw somebody else coming in while I was looking the other way there. There you are. Andy Thornton's here as well. Morning, Andy. Good of you to be here. What have we got? Jim Turner going back to the homosexual martial art that is cricket. That explains the ball tampering. Yes. Make it rough on one side. And then I'm moving on. Gary Muirhead says, this job is absolutely stunning. I'm working at a place called Kishornport on the NC 500 route, top side of Inverness. Stunning. Everywhere up that part of the world is stunning. And, it's a weird thing. And I had to go there to discover this. I did a couple of trips to Norway, and I've got to be honest, I do love Norway. I love Denmark, I love Sweden, I love Finland, but Norway is a particularly beautiful, beautiful place. And at one point, I was on a plane. One of these. They refer to them as puddle jumpers, so they go up over a fjord, down, up over a fjord, and down. Sometimes the flights are like 5 minutes long. They're no time at all. And I was doing that and looking at the scenery, thinking, "Isn't this beautiful? Isn't this picturesque? Isn't this just like Scotland?" Yeah, I've gone all the way to Norway, and yeah, it's a lot like Scotland. I think we overlook that sometimes. I do remember the first time I did the Highlands was as part of a John O'Groats to Land's End run. I drove up there basically to follow Hugh Edliani with HE Services from John O'Groats to Land's End. He was driving the land shuttle JCB3CX, and we did the journey with him, me and my colleague at the time, and driving up through the Highlands. Man, alive, that's some good stuff. It really is. Now, I'll tell you what. Let me go through this. I'll go through this, and then we'll get to the question of the day, because we've had one hell of an answer. Andy Thornton, I tip my hat, which you probably can't see because it is camouflage. As far as you're concerned, I'm probably just I have no top to my head because that's how camouflage works, apparently. It is Thursday, the 21st of August. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. And in today's show, JCB delivers for Collins Earthworks. Priestley Demolition goes shopping. We get the lowdown on the full range of Bell graders, and Volvo construction equipment is on track. Literally. Plus, in my morning monologue today, shouting into the void. When all your fears and concerns are met with silence, sooner or later, you too will fall silent. Before we get to that, I'm going to say a very quick good morning to Mr. Hatcher, the sprocket man himself, who just pitched up. Morning, Ken. There's your button. Let's get that done. Let me very quickly remind you of our question of the day. Yeah, for today's question today, I need you to put your thinking caps on and dip back into the deepest recesses, the deepest, darkest corners of your memory. Because today's question of the day is this: if you could bring back a chocolate bar or an item of confectionery from the past, what would you choose? I already came up with a couple, but now you lot have started, and I'm starting to think, oh, that would have been a good one as well. So here's mine. Okay, there used to be a Cadbury's chocolate bar called Amazing without a G. Amazing. A bit like a Mars bar. It had raisins in it, and the top had a layer of dark chocolate. Does anyone remember the Amazing? There was a for reasons that I don't never fully understood. They did the advert for it like a Dick Van Dyke style Cockney. It's amazing what raisins can do. Yeah, anybody remember that? The other one is a chocolate bar called an Aztec. I can't remember too much about it. All I can remember is I really liked it. It had a purple wrapper. I loved an Aztec. Can't remember what it looked like. Can't remember what it tasted like, but I do remember. And does anyone remember country style? Country style in a gingham wrapper? Do you remember that? I'm going to go over to the chat because we've already been, inundated. Andy Thornton, Spanish gold, shredded coconut covered in sugar. Yes, in little bags. Was it? No. It was done like tobacco, wasn't it? It was done like tobacco. I was thinking about the chewing gum that came in a golden nugget. Was it called in a little like canvas bag, a little Hessian bag of chewing gum. But yes, Spanish gold. Remember that well. What do we got here? Peter McKenna says the original size Yorkie bars are Mars bars. Yes, my children will not believe me when I tell them that they used to be as big as this, but they were. Gary Muirhead, Golden Cup or a Cabana bar. Now, Cabana, chocolate on the outside, coconut with bits of cherry in it. Yes, Cabana bar. There was also, I don't know, and I don't know how widely available this was because I only ever saw it in one shop. And it was a shop I worked in, thankfully. There was obviously, I think we're all familiar with the Fry's Turkish Delight, but there was another one. There was a long one, and the Turkish Delight in it was chocolate covered, but the Turkish Delight in it was very, very chewy, and it was called a Big Turk. Probably wouldn't call a chocolate bar Big Turk these days for a multitude of reasons. But does anyone remember the Big Turk? Yes. Peter says, I know it's not chocolate or confectionery, but hedgehog flavour crisps. Hedgehog, I remember those. I've got to be honest, I remember being a bit disappointed. I remember, hedgehog, that's going to be fun. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're all right. Yeah. Ken Hatcher saying proper dairy milk. I saw a thing online the other day, and I don't know how true this is, but apparently Cadbury's Dairy Milk is no longer permitted to describe itself as chocolate on the wrapper because apparently it doesn't actually meet the standards that constitute chocolate. It is chocolate flavored, but it is not chocolate. It doesn't have enough cocoa solids or something in it. Anybody realize that? Let's have a look. Peter McKenna says, never heard of them, Mark. You're showing your age there. Well, yes. Yes, I am. Skippy. Most of you younglings won't know it. Late 50s, early 60s. What was a Skippy? Was it a bar of chocolate? Was it a let us know. Skippy, don't know that one at all. When I was growing up, Skippy was a kangaroo. What's that, Skippy? He's fallen down the well? Has he? Really? Remember that? If anybody doesn't know what Skippy the bush kangaroo was about, what I just did will probably make you think I'm mental. I'm really not. There was an actual show, an Aussie show about a super intelligent superhero, vaguely superhero kangaroo. Yes. Gary says Toffo Toffees, candy cigarettes. How cool did we look? Yes, how cool indeed. With a little red tip that looked like, well, supposed to look like they were lit. They didn't. And they were very thin. Even if you held them in the correct manner, I don't do smoking, but even if you held them in the correct manner, you looked like a bit of a prat. I think we did. Crazy edits. Peter McKenna says, Gary, there is a woman producing her own Cabana bars. I've put the link in the group. I will be looking that up immediately after this show ends. And Andy Thornton, Caramac, which one of the great, well, I say a disappointment. You can still get Caramac. I think they call it something else now. And I know when Easter rolls around, you can usually get yourself a Caramac Easter egg. But it's not the same. And one of the things I used to love about a Caramac, and I don't know if this is unique to me, used to make me wheeze. Used to really affect my throat. Loved eating it, but it used to make me a bit wheezy. Even before I discovered that I was mildly asthmatic. Caramac used to make me wheeze, which goes to show how good a Caramac was. I was willing to put up with the wheezing because I like Caramac so much. Garrett says, old-fashioned sweet shop, shelves full of jars and goodies. You ask for a quarter of your favourite. Oh, yeah, remember that. There was a shop. There was a shop near me. Like my school was in Sutton, in Surrey. My high school was in Sutton, in Surrey, and we had a metal workshop, but it was not within the school grounds. It was down the road, and we had to walk past a sweet shop of the type that you're describing, Gary, and the shop was green shutters, green awning, and everything else. It was called the Green Shop, and that's where we used to go. And one of the great things about the Green Shop was they sold sherbet pips. The sherbet pips themselves, not particularly tasty, but if you had a quarter of sherbet pips, you had enough sweets to keep you going for about a fortnight. Millions of the damn things. Yeah, used to love acid drops as well. Anybody remember acid drops? Apparently, the Skippy bar came out before Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. I'm suggesting that Skippy came out. I don't believe he did. Jim Turner, candy fags, licorice pipes, gold bullion bars, licorice pipes. Yeah. What was it? What were we trying to do? What would be just like your parents? Here's a licorice pipe, and if that's not good enough for you, here's a packet of candy cigarettes. Bit too weedy wet for you? Have a packet of this Spanish gold tobacco. What the f are we trying to achieve with all of that? Cadbury's chocolate, nothing like it used to be. I agree. I agree. Still quite like it though. And do you know what else I like? I like the chocolate in Smarties, which also probably isn't chocolate, but really, really nice. Um, Gary Muirhead, what's all this trend about just now? Dubai chocolate, not a fan. No, obviously we heard about it, and you know, my youngest daughter decided, yes, we'll go and get ourselves some. And as a family, we shared a bar of Dubai chocolate and were largely, eh, couldn't really see what the fuss was all about. There's a Toffo link in the group as well, is there? Dubai chocolate, I could die eating it if it wasn't so expensive. And a bit of tiffin, yeah, there was a was that a bar or was that like a pack of like biscuits or something called tiffin? I vaguely remember tiffin. Keep those coming in. Anyway, we're not here to talk about sweets and confectionery. We're here to talk about diggers, and we're going to begin that in just a moment after this. Yeah, when you're making a big delivery of X series machines to the fine folks at Collins Earthworks, yeah, it deserves a bit of razzmatazz. JCB were just the company to turn to, and I'll tell you a bit more about JCB in just a second.
We've been looking at JCB for the last few years since they first launched the X series. You know, we've always had JCB sort of low doors and things like that, the smaller stuff. Based in the Midlands, like long-term staff. I think we're pretty well known now in the Midlands and the UK. You know, the team of lads that we've got, you know, don't mind and do regularly travel all over the country. You know, we've always been well known for having good equipment, and we thrive on repeat business. And that's why we put this purchase in this year. Some are going to quarry application, some are going onto the bulk earth moving, and we've got a couple going into a recycling yard. Our brand is important to us. JCB has always been good at branding. I think they look good. So why not? You know, it stands out from its competitors. The X Series cab is, I think, one of the best on the market. We have trialled it to death in his own way. You know, if we need parts, we can fetch them. Anything we've asked them to change on the machine, anything that we wanted slightly altering, they've done, no quibbles, paint, everything. So we're really happy with what we've purchased. It's just an easy sell, isn't it? I think they've done a cracking job, and no, we're happy. We're looking forward to getting them out on sites, you know, during the 2025 muck shifting season, and we'll see what we're going to place for 2026.
I have to say, they do look pretty damn smart in white, don't they? My phone has been buzzing like nobody's business because Peter McKenna is filling it up with links to chocolate bars, which is one of the reasons that Ken actually says, I thought it was a chocolate show today. We could do a chocolate show if you were that way inclined. Jim Turner says, one's in the recycling yard my lad works in. Don't think he's been on the JCB yet. They are very good, though. Well, as I say, I mean, I've only had a bit of a play, but I certainly enjoyed it. Peter McKenna says, Cadbury's is now using the American recipe, hence why it tastes different. Do you know one of the great disappointments of my life? I am listen. I'm a type 2 diabetic for entirely reasonable reasons. I am a chocoholic. Been a chocoholic my entire life. I would forego entire meals to eat chocolate. I am an absolute fan of chocolate. First time I ever went to America, you know, having watched TV shows and stuff like that, I went and sought out a Hershey's bar. That's awful. Hershey's bar tastes awful. And I tell you what's even worse. For those of you that have ever been to Times Square in New York, there is actually a dedicated Hershey's shop in Times Square. And if you walk in there, you'd think, oh, Hershey's, the luscious smell of chocolate. Nope, smells vaguely of sick. Yes, not a fan at all. Let's have a look. There are lots of links in the WhatsApp group, including candy sticks. Jonathan Durash, you and I are of one mind, Jonathan. They do look white, good in white. Ken Hatcher says US chocolate tastes completely different, like sugar. Yeah. When the Yanks bought Cadbury's, I've not eaten it since. Yeah. Now here's a bit of a throwback. Fry's chocolate cream. Now you can tell you've got me on my specialist subject. Me and my dad always liked the navy blue one. It's kind of a fondant-y sort of thing. Quite liked the green one, but does anyone remember the 5-center one? So it was broken into 5 segments, and each segment was a slightly different color. I think they all tasted the same. I can't. A bit like Smarties. Do all Smarties taste the same? In my head, I like to think that the orange one tastes vaguely of orange. I'm not entirely convinced it is. I think I may be fooling myself. But yes. The was it Fry's 5 centers? I think it may have been. You can still get Fry's chocolate creams. You can. I've seen them. Dan Cullen has just arrived, and he says we have the orange one sat on our table here. Delightful. Not a big fan of chocolate orange. Chocolate and orange to me, not a great mix. I don't like the Terry's chocolate orange. Not a big fan of that at all. It's the same in the M&M store in Times Square. 3 floors of every kind of flavor and color you can think of. Yeah, there's also we went there, but there's also in Vegas down the strip. There is I can't remember what the shop's called. Doesn't matter. But the Jelly Belly jelly beans. Literally floor to ceiling, and we're talking sort of 2 stories, floor to ceiling, and it is incredible. They've got flavors you didn't even know were flavors. Do you remember mint cracknel? I do. And the only way, for those of you that don't know what a mint cracknel was like, chocolate on the outside and like a green cracknel is a good way to describe it, because when you bit into it, it was a bit like shards of glass. It was a really strange texture, but very, very nice. Orange twirls are nice, even though they're Cadbury's. I don't do twirls. I don't do orange. And the white chocolate twirls, not done that one either. Mick says, used to be a shop in Hackney, sold stick jaw. Think it's the reason most of my choppers are missing. I'll be telling you tomorrow about why most of my choppers are missing. Completely different subject. And jelly babies. Yes, absolutely jelly babies. Jelly babies are like Smarties. Do they taste different? Does the green one taste different to the orange one? Does the orange one taste different to the black one? Or is it just psychosomatic? Never quite figured that out. We'll be back with a bit of, well, I'm going to say Canadian demolition. It's a Canadian demolition company, but they're actually working elsewhere. Back after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, I don't like to show favoritism when it comes to equipment manufacturers because, ultimately I don't want to upset anyone. When it comes to demolition contractors, I don't give a monkey's. There are certain demolition companies I really like and really admire. And one of them is Priestley.
This is a huge moment for the township, and we're so excited to partner with the port and with Green City to realize a strategic dream that we've had to start to reposition one of the most important intersections in our township. This is really our Main Street and Main Street, and to have the opportunity to bring redevelopment to this site through these partnerships is just, it's fantastic.
Coleraine Township approached the port for technical assistance in acquiring the property and demolishing the property. Complex demolitions and complex real estate transactions are things that the port specializes in and serves all of the communities in the county.
Green City PDI is extremely happy and privileged to be a part of this project. It's such an icon for this area.
Yeah, top work by Priestly Demolition, as always. Chris Ford has just arrived. He says, morning, troops. Been keeping my head down because there's a health and safety audit going. Absolutely. Keep your head down on that. Now, Dan Cullen, going back to jelly babies. If you see me eating them, I don't share. I used to eat 4 packs a day. Good Lord. It's a wonder you have a tooth in your head. I've met you. You have got teeth in your head. I don't know how you've done it. Gobstoppers and Bazooka Joe. Little packs of bubblegum with a cartoon in it. I mean, I don't suppose I could even read it now. I'm not entirely sure I could find it with these glasses. But yes, little cartoon there as an added bonus. Still think Fry's five boys was the best. Was that 5 centers or something like that? Maybe. Now, Gary says, does anyone remember the Cadbury Bits bar? And there was something about that jarred with me. So I had a very quick look while that Priestly video was playing. And I can tell you, not Cadbury's, but Terry's. Terry's Bits bar. Yeah. Now, didn't do the orange one because I don't do chocolate orange. I remember the mint one. I have no recollection whatsoever of the cherry bits. Did anyone ever do the cherry bits bar from Terry's? Mick says, love the flag on the machine. Proud Canadians and all. Let's crack on, shall we? Where are we headed to next? We're actually going to South Africa. We've just been to Ohio via Canada. We're off to South Africa in a second to talk graders. Back in a second.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, we're off to the home of Bell, and we're going to have a good look around their graders. If you're still talking about chocolate, please feel free, and confectionery as well. I'm not proud, but if there's any chocolate bar or confectionery from the past that you'd like to bring back, let us know in the chat. Do so while you're watching this.
Introducing the all-new Bell Motor Grader range. Engineered to deliver unbeatable productivity, pinpoint precision, and exceptional performance, even in the toughest working conditions. This range raises the bar for efficiency, control, and reliability. Our lineup includes 3 powerful models: the G140 Eco, G140, G160, and G200. All models except the Eco are available in 6-wheel drive configurations, delivering added traction and performance. Operating weights range from 20 tons to 23 tons, with engine power starting at 148 kilowatts on the G140 Eco and reaching up to 245 kilowatts on the G200 6-wheel drive. Designed specifically for mining and construction environments, Bell Motor Graders feature heavy-duty components like a reinforced front axle and large tandem boxes. And because precision is key, Bell Graders seamlessly integrates with industry-leading grading systems like Trimble, Leica, and Topcon, providing contractors with unmatched accuracy and maximum flexibility. Under the hood, a fuel-efficient Cummins engine teams up with a smooth-shifting ZF transmission, ensuring responsive control and operator comfort. Blade performance is sharper, controls are more intuitive, and servicing has never been easier. Bell designed tandems with large trunnion bearings and cooled axles are built to withstand prolonged use without overheating. Our innovative box-style cooling system improves airflow and simplifies cleaning, while an on-demand reversible fan reduces operating costs and boosts overall efficiency. Versatility is at the core of every Bell grader. A 2-position drawbar optimizes blade angles for varying tire sizes, while 6-wheel drive models include a universal spare wheel plate allowing one spare to fit all wheel positions, minimizing downtime and keeping you productive. Every detail counts. Our sealed slew ring reduces maintenance and enhances durability. The parallelogram ripper maintains a consistent angle at depth, and the ergonomic cab with shuttle shift, intuitive controls and superior visibility helps operators stay comfortable, productive and alert. With Fleetmatic Telematics, fleet managers gain instant insights into machine performance, productivity and maintenance requirements, empowering better operational decisions. The Bell Motor Grader range is PDS ready, offering compatibility with leading PDS or CAS systems to help improve safety on site. This isn't just another product launch, it's our ongoing commitment to quality, innovation, and local manufacturing excellence.
Our man Jim saying, my dream, a big reservoir like that. Absolutely fantastic place to work. I mentioned Aztec bars earlier. Mike Wolf, morning Mike, says, I used to like Aztec bars. Whatever happened to those? They just seem to die out. And what I do remember, this would have been very early 80s. Yeah, very early 80s. They were brought back, but they were brought back as a limited edition. Still look the same, but they brought them back. But I think they lasted about 6 months and they went away again. Don't know why. Chris Ford says, do they still do old Jamaica rum and raisin bars? Or the Cadbury equivalent of the Mars bar, the Aztec bar? Is that what the Aztec was? It was a Cadbury's equivalent of a Mars bar. I do remember liking them, but I don't remember much about them. Jonathan Duras, going back to the Bell machines, they look smart, he says. You do know that gaining info from telematics gives them more information to change to robot driving. Yeah, well, yes, they do. Yes, no question about it. That's absolutely true. Now, two things. Gary Muirhead mentioned a thing called a Chelsea Whopper. A few people I would like to describe as a Chelsea Whopper, but that's a whole other story. I'd never heard of a Chelsea Whopper, and I did wonder if it was maybe a Scottish thing. Apparently, it was made by a company called Saltire, so it may well be Scottish. But this is what a Whopper looked like. That is a Chelsea Whopper. Never heard of it. Anybody outside of Scotland? Mike, you don't count. You're a Scot. You don't count. Anybody outside of Scotland ever heard of a Chelsea Whopper? And now I'm about to reveal just how childish I am. The bar of chocolate in Sweden, it's probably across Scandinavia, but it's certainly in Sweden. And whenever I find myself in Sweden, it's almost like a law. I have to take a photograph of the bar of chocolate and send it to friends and family because it amuses me enormously. This is how childish I am. The bar of chocolate I'm talking about is called a plop. I'd like a plop. Yeah. Listen, it may well mean something completely different in the Swedish language, but you might have thought they'd have done a little bit of research and went, maybe something this shape and this colour, maybe plop is not the best name for it. And my other half, and I can vow for this, I can vouch for this rather, used to love a Texan bar. Anyone remember a Texan bar? My memory of a Texan bar was it was only edible during certain months of the year. My wife will disagree with me on this, but certain months of the year. Not necessarily the summer, because who wants to eat chocolate when it's all runny, but late spring, early autumn, it was chewy and you could get a big lump and you could pull it and you get that, a bit like you do with mozzarella, you get that stretch thing going on. That was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Try to eat a Texan in the months of winter, shatter your teeth. Anybody remember that? Apparently, plop is tastier than Cadbury's. Do they do... Please don't anybody clip this bit. Does anyone... Do they do plop in IKEA? Do they do it? Given that it is Swedish? The IKEA chocolate caramels. The IKEA meatballs. That jammy stuff that they have with them. Love all of that. I can't remember the last time I went to IKEA. And I can tell you, the last time I went to IKEA, I most definitely did not go for the furniture. Mike Wolf says, yes, I'll buy a plot bar when I go to Sweden too. They're a bit sweet, but otherwise nice. Yeah. And there we are. 37-minute mark, and the show has found its level. We are now talking about plop. Apparently, it just means the sound of water dripping into itself. What's that got to do with a bar of chocolate? Don't know, but thank you for telling me that. I feel slightly wiser as a result. Now, we've been talking about plop and Sweden. We're going to do it again in a minute after this. Now, Jim Turner, our questions of the day never go away. Just so you know, they exist forever. Like Keith Richards, they just continue. Jim Turner says, just to step back to the other day's question of the day, deaths and accidents. My dad's mate was working in Africa on a dozer, I think, for Daigor Gaylords. Just disappeared. Either locals or animals took him. My wife's best friend's husband, we'll call him Barry because that's his name. He lives just up the road, Barry. Best mate from school was eaten by a crocodile. And whenever he tells that story, it's like, what, in Epsom? Of course it wasn't in Epsom. He was one of those that did the whole volunteer thing in Africa. I can't remember exactly where he was in Africa. But they were helping to build a school. And every morning they would get on a boat that would take them across a river from where they were camping to the site. Unbeknown to Barry's mate and most people, I think, crocodiles are a little bit smarter than you might give them credit for. Because every day people would basically get to as close to the bank as they could. They'd jump off the boat and then wade and then paddle up to and then they'd go to work. Crocodile cottoned onto that and was lying in wait. And as I say, Barry's mate jumped off. Crocodile took him. Yeah. Jim Turner. Yes, I'm sure they didn't mention this in his eulogy or on his gravestone, but apparently he likely jumped off for a tom tit. What a lovely image that is. Peter says, well, the group's looking different for a change. Instead of politics, it's chocolate-based. So much more pleasing. I agree. I do mute the WhatsApp group from time to time, particularly when I'm actually writing, which I was this morning. And I've got to be honest, the moment that it gets into politics, I take my phone and I put it over there. Not bothered at all. Yeah, it all goes off at a slight tangent as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I've promised you a little book. Hang on a minute, what's this? Mike says, when I was a development worker in Nigeria, I was chased by a cobra. Luckily, we didn't have crocs where I lived. Being chased by a cobra is not funny, though. Not that it matters. Not that it matters, because, frankly, if I see a cobra, I am outrunning Usain Bolt. Are cobras quick? You see some of these, like, what they call that one, the one in the desert, the Sidewinder? The fucking thing goes off like a rocket. Are cobras quick? Or is that not really the point? Is the fact that they're there enough to make you break the land speed record? Love to hear about it. Yes, Sweden, Volvo. We've mentioned the fact before the fine folks at Volvo are sponsoring and even competing in the Rallycross Championships. They're also helping rebuild some of the tracks, including one up in Finland.
It's a great experience to working together with Volvo Construction Equipment. We were really excited to see, for example, testing new electric machinery on the track, such as electric wheel loader.
This track building is the first construction site for this L120 full electric wheel loader here in Finland, and they really love it.
Volvo Construction Equipment is the official track building partner to the FIA World Rallycross Championship. We are here in Kymmering, Finland, finalizing a major track building project with our latest products and services.
So it's a great experience for us to work with Volvo and to use their machinery for a really efficient and sustainable way of constructing the circuit.
Volvo C and the Volvo machines have done a great job preparing and building the gravel sections from scratch. I think it would be a great race weekend overall.
We are really excited for the event to see how this construction work is coming to life.
I owe Peter an apology. Peter says, bloody hell, you trying to blow my window out, Mark? That video is bloody loud. I can only apologise. I've got the equalisation turned on. All of the video should play at the same volume. I got it in the ears. I know how loud that was. I don't know what happened there. This is kind of the answer I was expecting. Mike Wolf on Cobras. They're quick enough. Yeah. Yeah, I bet they are. At what point? At what point do you stop running? Is a 20-yard gap between you and a Cobra enough, or would you just keep going? Personally, I think I'd probably keep going. I don't have a problem with snakes as a concept, but the bitey ones, I have a problem with them. Peter says, well, I like my construction machinery, but I'd rather watch that car drifting around that track. I have to say, not a motorsport fan at all, not a petrol head in any way, shape or form, but that rallycross, partly because it's electric, but also the way that they do the race. It's I think I'm right in saying it's 4 laps, and I think 1 or possibly 2 of those laps has to include a bit of off-road. It really is quite and there's kind of a strategy to it. So you get some that will blast off and do the 2 laps of the track first to try and give themselves a head start, so that they do the slower off-road bit second, and therefore have got themselves far enough in advance or far enough ahead to actually win. And there are others that do the off-road bit first and then see if they can make up the distance. Makes for a very exciting race. Never used one of those Scandi flat front buckets, but they look awful, says Jim Turner. That's probably why they live up in Scandinavia. But if you think about all the things that have come out of Scandinavia, and I'm thinking here specifically about quick couplers and that kind of thing, there might come a time, Jim, where you look at it and go, oh, yes, Scandi bucket for me, please. And I know Dig Bits are doing some Scandinavian buckets, if you're interested in learning more. Anywho, people, that is pretty much it for the main part of this morning show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue before going off to the cricket. Not till later in the afternoon, but yeah, going off to the cricket. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. Tomorrow, we'll be talking accidents in general, and my accident in particular, because tomorrow is the 9th anniversary. If you fancy learning a bit about that, you can. If you do have the time and the inclination, however, I will be back immediately after. From sound-isolated excavator cabs to sound-suppressed hydraulic breakers, from ear defenders worn by individual workers to sound monitoring systems covering an entire site. As an industry, we are very, very good at managing and mitigating noise. Unfortunately for those working within it, however, the industry has also become very adept at maintaining silence. The studied silence from companies and trade bodies in the aftermath of an accident or fatality. Silence over safety fears. Silence in response to concerns over drug and alcohol abuse on site. Silence when someone speaks up about stress, on-site bullying, or even abuse. Nobody bloody listens. That's the truth of it. You can be standing there on site pointing out a hazard that's as plain as day, and the people in charge will nod, maybe scribble something on a clipboard, and then carry on as if you never said a word. You can flag a scaffold that's dodgy, a trench that looks ready to cave in, or a machine that's working way too close to people and where they're walking. And all you'll get is a shrug and, yeah, we'll deal with that later. Later. As if that will be of any use to the bloke that ends up in A&E. And that's the problem, isn't it? The suits and the clipboard brigade love to talk about safety. Toolbox talks, posters, endless bloody paperwork, entire mornings wasted filling out forms that nobody's read. But when the real issues are raised by the boots on the ground, by the people who actually see the risks before anyone else, suddenly it's radio silence. Suddenly it's stop moaning or just crack on. They treat the people who are keeping the whole operation afloat like background noise. That's not just ignorance, it's negligence dressed up as leadership. And let's not pretend we can't all see the elephant on site. Drugs and alcohol. You can feel it, you can see it, and yes, sometimes you can smell it. It's there, everyone knows it's there. But the management, they'd rather stick their heads in the sand, pretend it doesn't exist, because they know they can't afford to lose half their workforce. And on the rare occasions they do acknowledge it, it's with some half-baked random testing program designed to scare people rather than to actually deal with the root causes. They don't want to ask why it happens, why people under stress and under pressure, under relentless deadlines, reach for a bottle just to get through. They don't want to face the truth that when you push people to the edge, some of them will look for a way to cope. They'll look for a crutch. No one's excusing it, but ignoring it, pretending it doesn't exist, that's worse. That makes it more dangerous for everyone. And don't get me started on inefficiency either. How many times have you stood around wasting time because a decision got stuck in an office somewhere? How many days lost because deliveries or fuel never turned up, or permits weren't signed, or management couldn't be bothered to coordinate properly? You look around and see machines sitting idle, blokes twiddling their thumbs, money burning away by the hour. And it's so bloody obvious what needs to change. The people on site could tell you in 5 minutes how to save thousands, how to shave days off the job. But do the decision makers ask? No, of course they don't. Because apparently it's easier to waste time and money than to admit people with 20 years experience digging trenches or operating machines might actually know what they're talking about. And bullying. Don't tell me it doesn't still happen, because it does. We all know it does. Sometimes it's blatant, someone shouting, humiliating, throwing their weight around. Sometimes it's quieter, more poisonous, giving someone the worst jobs, cutting them out, laughing behind their back. And when anyone dares to speak up, when someone says, hang on, that's not right, they get told it's just banter. Just banter. But banter doesn't leave people broken. Banter doesn't push people out of the industry. Banter doesn't destroy someone's confidence day after day. That's bullying, plain and simple. But try raising it and you'll be labelled a troublemaker, someone who can't hack it. And so people shut up, they swallow it, and the cycle goes on. And through all of this, stress builds. It builds and it builds and it builds until it cracks people open. And what do they get from management when they finally reach the end of their rope? A poster in the canteen about Mental Health Awareness Week, a free pen with the helpline number, maybe a well-meaning speech from someone who's never actually worked a shift on site in their life, telling everyone to speak up as if that doesn't come with consequences. It's tokenism, nothing more. It's pretending to care without doing a damn thing to make anything better. Because when someone does speak up, when someone says they're not coping, that they need help, they're met with the same silence, the same indifference. And in the worst cases, they're actually punished for it. The truth nobody wants to say out loud is this. This industry runs on the backs of its workers, but it refuses to hear their voices. The people who actually make the jobs happen, who risk their necks every single day, They're treated like they're expendable, like they don't know anything. Decisions are made far away by people who have never set foot on a site, people who wouldn't know the first thing about working a shift in the mud and the rain. And yet those are the voices that carry the most weight. Those are the voices that apparently matter. But they don't want to listen, because listening means being accountable. Listening means admitting that the people in the trenches, on the machines, under the scaffold, actually see more, know more, and care more than the ones in charge. Listening means they might have to change something, and change is hard, isn't it? It's much easier to nod along and carry on regardless. And that's one of the many reasons I'm perpetually angry, because I see it and you see it. You live it every single day, and still it gets brushed aside. I kind of want you to know this. I'm not ranting at you, I'm ranting for you, because I'm sick of watching the same cycle repeat, sick of watching people being ignored, sick of watching the suits play their games while the workers pay the price. And if nothing changes, the hazards stay, the waste stays, the bullying stays, the stress stays, and the silence stays. And that's the part that really eats away at me. We've all spent so long shouting into the void without a response that many have just stopped shouting. They have become a part of the silence. Hey, well, managed to get all the way through that with something in my eye, because I'm a brave soldier. That's better. How are we all doing this morning anyway? Let's go over to the chat, see what's going on over here. Weird, says Nick, was watching a video of that Carla Bird the other day. She is some driver. She is some driver. Yeah, I've seen Carla for the Volvo CE driver team up close. She's that good, I wouldn't get in a car with her. She would terrify the bejesus out of me. Unbelievable driver. Really is. Brave, bold, skilled. She's got the lot. Gary Muirhead says, I remember the Billy Connolly joke. Two guys in the jungle filming lions, and one guy's put running shoes on. He said, "You'll never outrun a lion, but I don't care as long as I outrun you." Yes, you don't have to. You don't have to outrun the lion. Just outrun the bloke that you're with. Gary says they're going to cheek to say to us, "Don't walk back." When loads of other shit is going on in the background, they don't know what want to know about or turn a blind to. Yep, all true. No, all very true. Let's have a look. I've sent you another poem, Mark. I'm going to have to go soon. Got a Teams meeting in 10 minutes. Hope you can read it out before I go. Let's... okay. So the latest from, what was that? Yeah, Peter McKenna, who is a latter-day Paniers. Those of you a certain vintage will remember Paniers. This is called Hard Hats and Heavy Hearts. The engines roar, steel bites the ground, progress built on thunderous sound. Machines stand tall, towers climb high, but beneath the cranes, too many die. A slip, a fall, a name on a wall, another family receives the call, and boardroom sigh, we did our best, while ticking boxes to silence unrest. Hard hats hide the pain inside, where drugs and dark thoughts often reside. Men and women strong in the day fight their demons when lights fade away. Empathy lost in corporate sheets, lives reduced to compliance beats. But a life is more than a safety score. It's laughter, it's love, it's dreams once more. So listen, leaders, hear this plea. A worker's worth is dignity. Not just numbers you file and store, but souls who deserve compassion and more. Are you writing those, Peter, or is that an AI thing? Whatever it is, I'm here for it. I'm liking it. Jim Turner says, I've never minded telling folk what they don't want to hear. Very minded, not fitting in or not running with the crowd. If I see something is wrong, I'll speak out. Yeah, and many do. Many do. But many don't. Many are fearful of doing so. And listen, we've got Andy Thornton in our midst. He knows about these things. It's easy, I think, to point at things like drugs and alcohol abuse and just say, look at him, he's a junkie or he's a drunk. Terrible, terrible thing. And he's putting us all at risk by bringing his filthy, filthy habits to work. Why is he drinking? Why is he taking drugs? Now, there is a possibility that he might just like it. Drugs are as Russell Brand once said, quite Moorish. But what if it's not? What if they are taking that to numb the pain of work, domestic situation, a combination thereof, financial stress? Are they doing that to cope? And if they are doing that to cope, is the onus not upon all of us, management and fellow workers alike, to rather than pointing accusing fingers, to actually put an arm around their shoulders and say, look, you're going to hurt you, or you're going to hurt me, or you're going to hurt someone else. What say we have a bit of a chat about this? Is there not a bit of that? And he says, according to Riddle 2023-24, falls from height 50, struck by moving vehicle 25, struck by moving object 20, trapped by collapse or overturned 15, contact with machinery 8. That's incidents rather than fatalities, I would guess, because we haven't had that many fatalities during that period. But yes. And here's the thing, okay? So I'm looking at this on the screen, which I don't know why I'm waving a pen around. I'm going to put that down. Nothing that our man Andy has put up there is a surprise to any of us. Yeah, but now bearing in mind, and I will be talking about accidents tomorrow because I'm going to tell you about mine, as if you haven't heard that enough. I hop on and hop off of sites. You guys are all on there on a regular basis. And apparently that is fatalities. That must have been over a longer period, though, surely. Or is that cross-industry? Because we definitely didn't have 75, 95, 110. We didn't have 118 fatalities in a single year. I think that the most we've had in recent years is about 50-odd. So there's something not... Is that over? It wouldn't even be over 2 years, I don't think. Not entirely sure. But anyway, we all know biggest killer in this industry, outside of suicide, outside of asbestos-related diseases, is falls from height. We know that. But we still send men and women up to work at height. Giving them a harness enough? Is giving them a cherry picker enough? Or could you have devised a better way of doing it? Struck by a moving vehicle. In other words, they've come into contact probably with, an item of plant or a vehicle. Delineate the two. If I walked outside my house here, 20 yards, there's a path. It's called a footpath. That's where my feet go. Beside which there's a road where the cars go. They don't come onto my bit. I don't go onto their bit. We go about our business and nobody gets hurt. It's not hard. And apparently that's over construction 2023 and 2024. Those numbers look too high. I think pre-COVID we got down to about 35. I think we went up to about 45 in a year. And I think we then went up to 50 in a year. And I think we've now just gone back down a little bit. But those figures, listen, you're looking at the website. I'm not. But those figures jar with me. They seem too high. Just been sent to another gang for talking up on what they were doing using a 2-ton shackle for lifting a 3-ton box. The method that the said gang were working, if they wouldn't listen, an accident waiting to happen. How many of those are there out there in the wide world of demolition and construction? The main thing with drink and drugs is to eject them from site for everyone's safety. Secondly, is to make sure that they don't come back until they've changed their ways. Changing their ways. Listen, I agree with the basic premise there, but in order, if you are an alcoholic and you are, or a drug addict, if you are actually addicted to those substances, mending your ways not so straightforward. If you are using drugs or alcohol as a crutch, as a coping mechanism, you don't fix that drug and alcohol abuse by removing the drugs and alcohol. You mend that situation by removing the thing that is driving them to drink and drugs in the first place, surely. And if, after some investigation, assuming such investigations take place, if it transpires that one of the things that's pushing them to drug and alcohol abuse is the pressure of their job, either change the working practices or put them in a different position where they're not so under the cosh. It's not hard, is it? I also think, as a follow-up to that, one of my big concerns with this is the fact that, as it stands at the moment, we're not actually reporting or investigating or recording the presence of drugs and alcohol in an accident. If an excavator swings around and kills someone, there's an accident report. If that guy had been under the influence of drugs or alcohol, as far as I'm aware, the health and safety executive are not taking that into consideration. That he may well be breathalyzed, assuming that's available, and whatever. But there is no way, you cannot go to the health and safety executive and interrogate their accident fatality statistics to find out how much of an impact drugs and alcohol have had. There are no figures for it. And surely, if you're going to fix a problem, you need to understand the scale. You need to measure the problem before you can fix it, surely. If it's the pressure, they're in the wrong job. Yes, maybe they are. Maybe they are. Now, listen, this one's quite hard for me. I'm one of those. Listen, I don't work on the site, and I understand the pressures are very different. But I cut my teeth doing journalism on a weekly magazine. The first magazine I ever worked on was a weekly. And although it says it's weekly, if you think about the fact that it has to be printed and distributed, so effectively the entire researching and writing of articles in contract journal, as was back in the day, was condensed into about 3 days. And it was 3 days of balls to the wall, foot flat to the floor, working like an absolute lunatic. You literally, you'd get in early, you'd leave late, and you were literally bang, bang, bang. I thrived. One of the things that I used to enjoy enormously was when the advertising department say, we've sold another 3 pages of advertising. We need another page of editorial. What have you got? Leave it. Oh dear. And I would literally, on the spot, bang, I've got something, and I'm on it. All right, make the phone calls, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's one of the reasons I enjoy this. On some occasions, things like my morning monologue, sometimes I write them a day, 2 days, a week in advance. Sometimes I deliberately don't write them until the day of the show. Literally the morning, an hour before I come on, because I love the idea of being up against it. Just want to very quickly, JCB Machines just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning, JCB Machines. I meant to come back to this earlier, but I didn't. You know that I reached out to JCB to ask if they would be kind enough to give us some branded goodies for our 1000th show, which is like 3 weeks away. Oh boy, did they come to the party. I've got a pile of JCB goodies behind me like you wouldn't believe. I've got hats and power packs and pens and lanyards and you have no idea. JCB Machines, Nigel Chell in particular, but JCB Machines, good morning and thank you. Much appreciated. Gary Muirhead says, I've known guys who've spoken up on site and issues and were labelled a troublemaker. It's like going back to the days when there was a black book going around with guys' names who were banned from site. Are we really convinced that doesn't exist anymore? May not be in the form of a black book, but listen, we've had this discussion before. How many of you are in a job that required you to present a CV before you actually got the job? My guess is very, very few, if any. A lot of this business, maybe outside of agencies, but a lot of this business is done on word of mouth. You apply for a job and chances are your prospective boss will pick up the phone to your previous employer. I've got Gary Muirhead here. What do you reckon? He's sound, is he? Good. Fan. Gary, you've got the job. What if you're not? What if you are a troublemaker? What if you are quite willing to point out a safety concern, a fear, the fact that somebody's doing drugs or doing, they've turned up drunk? What if you know that there is unsafe practice going on and you speak up about it? Do we really think that's gone away? I certainly don't. Mick says, used to see a lot of blokes with problems, tried to talk to some I didn't. What I didn't realise, I saw me in them. Took 40 years from leaving the army to be finally diagnosed with PTSD. Still unsure if I should have talked to those who I didn't at the time, but what I would have said to them for them to listen. Yeah, listen. There's another thing. We touched on this yesterday because we were talking about, I will be talking about, let's talk about death. PTSD. If you witness a fatality or even a bad accident, in all likelihood, unless you are part robot, there's a very, very strong possibility that you will get PTSD. You will, your brain will go, do you know what? That's a lot. That is a lot. And what is the long-term effect of that? Just a very quick aside. As I say, I'm going to tell you about an actual physical accident tomorrow. But I was, it must be 15 years ago. I was driving through London. Drove round Elephant and Castle, my dad's old haunt, on the way to a meeting. Quite slow. Came round the big roundabout with that sort of glass obelisk in the middle of it. Came round it, and all was revealed. There'd been an accident. I think it was a motorbike, and the traffic on my side of the road was edging forward while the accident was being attended to over here. And by the time I drew level with it, I saw a guy. Didn't look, he wasn't sort of covered in blood or anything like that, but I saw him being loaded into a body bag. And I drove about half a mile down the road, turned the car around, and I went back home because it freaked me out. And I, as I say, there wasn't blood and guts. It wasn't a squeamish thing. It was just my brain went, that's too much for a morning. You need to go and have a bit of a. And I lost 2 days for that because it just too much for my old noggin. Do you have a set of front 3CX filters and a top bar in your JCB goodie bag? Jim, I'll have a look. The goodie bag was big. I don't think it was quite that big, but I will have a look. And if they're here, I'll make a point of driving them up to you. Not today because I'm going to the cricket, but don't hold your breath. I think it's goodies rather than practical things, but I'll take a look. Anyway, people, I'm not going to go and get my whites on. I'm wearing this when I go to the cricket, probably with a jacket because it doesn't look particularly warm out there. I'm going to be back tomorrow. We will be talking about accidents. If that's not your thing, if you are triggerable, if you are a little not squeamish, although you will be seeing the aftermath of my accident, it's not that bad. It felt a lot worse than it looks. Trust me, because I experienced both. We will be talking about it tomorrow. As I say, if that's not your bag, I fully understand you ducking out. But if you would like to see my handsome face before it was ruined, well, no, immediately after it was ruined, actually, by a demolition accident, then tune in tomorrow. That's what we'll be doing. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Really appreciate your company, particularly all the discussions about chocolate. Could talk about that for days. Sometimes wonder why I chose to talk about diggers and demolition. If I'd have chosen to do a show about chocolate and sweeties and confectionery, I'd be in my element. Probably have a bigger audience. Probably no teeth, although I've lost some of those as well, which again I'll tell you about tomorrow. Anyway, people, go and have a fantastic day. Look after yourselves. Please look after yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow. All the very best.